Thank you, Zimbabwe, for tuning into yet another informative edition of your program. This is Agricultural New Directions, Agribusiness in support of Vision 2030. Now, we cannot talk about agriculture if we ignore the most important variable when it comes to production. We are looking at issues surrounding land acquisition and land utilization right here in Zimbabwe. Now, I've taken the liberty of inviting the director in the Department of Lands Management and Administration in the Ministry of Lands, Agriculture, Fisheries, Water and Rural Development right here in Zimbabwe. Mr. Dendere, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, Azana.
As we get into our discussion, Sam, could you talk to us in terms of the various classes of state land?
When we talk of agricultural state land, we refer to the following categories. The first category is land that has never been privatized and remained as state land from the time before independence up to independence and to date. That land is usually reserved for some uses. So under our resettlement models, especially the fast track phase, which started in 2000, we have two main models. We have what we term model A1. So this model is sections or areas that we demarcated for specific use. We call them villagized settlements. Why? Because we set an area as the village where we give each household about half a hectare or 5,000 square meters for residential use. We then have the arable blocks where we give each household about 6 hectares for cropping purposes. Then we have the grazing area, which is usually communal because the villagers will be sharing that, but each household would be entitled to plus or minus 15 hectares, but it depends on the region, because what we were looking at is to ensure that each household should be able to keep 7 livestock units. So that's how we classify our land. Then we have the model A2, which is the commercial version of our land reform program, where a farmer is given a piece which is self-contained. Of course, we have the small scale, medium and large scale depending on the farmer's capability. So the farmer will have the land to himself in terms of where they will construct their dwelling, where they will do their cropping and where they will do their livestock.
Moving right along, I want us to look at issues surrounding the offer letter. There are a lot of misconception, abuse of that letter. What is it? What does it represent? And who is who can get that letter?
In terms of our law, especially when we look at the Gazetted Land Consequential Provisions Act, we have 3 tenure documents that are recognized at law. We have a permit, we have an offer letter, and we have a lease. Those are the 3 categories of tenure documents that farmers should have for them to legally occupy state land. Only the Minister of Lands is authorized to sign all the 3 tenure documents that I mentioned. The A1 permit, which we give for our farmers under model A1, basically just describes the person who is allocated and the spouse who is also part of the allocation, because remember our policy says 1 household, 1 farm. So if we allocate 1 person, it means the spouse is also covered. So our A1 permit actually has both names, the husband and the wife, and then it's signed by the minister. It describes the property, the size that is allocated to that household. Then we have the offer letter. We were giving offer letters to A2 farmers.
Yes.
And these are mainly the green offer letters that people know. But in 2022, we checked and realized that, as you said, we were having a lot of fake offer letters that were flying around, people going, taking other people's land on the basis of fake offer letters.
Yes.
So we then said it is best to securitize this A2 tenure document. Now we are issuing an A2 settlement permit, which has security features, it has watermarks, it is serialized. So it cannot be faked in any way. Because we insist when someone claims to have a piece of land and a tenure document, they should produce the original. So this again is signed by the minister, and we are in the process of converting or upgrading all the old offer letters to this A2 permit.
Okay.
Then we come to the list that I mentioned. Our 99-year leases are given to farmers who already have A2 offer letters or permits, who are now being rewarded for being productive on the piece of land that we have allocated.
Okay, now Mr. Dendere, who can get an offer letter? Can you talk to our audience there at home who think kuti maybe offer letter inotongo buda zvakadaro for starters? Secondly, we also have some land officials at times say, who just say, you know what, if you want that farm, I can process an offer letter for you. Can I just have maybe $5,000? Tomorrow you'll be having an offer letter. How does it work? This process of ending up with an offer letter.
The process of having an offer letter, we have what we call land committees. We have a land committee at a district level. We call that the district land committee. That committee is chaired by the district development coordinator, and stakeholders like the land office at district level, the traditional leaders in that district, the war veterans representative, and our security arms and other interested stakeholders are part of that land committee. So the district land committee is the one that sits to deliberate on land allocations, to make recommendations for allocation, and they write what we call a schedule, which they then submit to the provincial land committee. The provincial land committee is chaired by the provincial minister for provincial affairs and devolution. But what I want people to understand and know is the first and important thing is, if you want to be considered for land, you have to apply formally and be on the waiting list. Only people who are on the waiting list will be considered when an allocation opportunity arises. And there are quotas that should be respected when land allocation is being done. We look at our war veterans because of the role they played in us having our independence. So they have 20% quota that is reserved for them. The president has also now said, for the nation to develop fast, we need to harness the eagerness, the vigor, and the strength and the speed that our youth have. So our youth now have also 20% a quota in the allocation system. We also say women in their own right and those that are disabled should also be considered. We have not yet set the quotas for those, but we want to see them being considered also on allocation schedules.
Thank you so much, Mr. Dendere, for such a detailed presentation. On that note, we have come to the end of the first segment. We're going to go on a short commercial break. We'll be right back with this and more in the second segment. Stay tuned. Thank you, Zimbabwe, for staying tuned to Agricultural New Directions, Agribusiness, in support of Vision 2030, where we discuss production economics, business finance, time value of money, even land acquisition and land utilization right here in Zimbabwe. Now, viewers, we encourage you to be a part of these conversations. Feel free to get in touch with the producer, Wadzanai Manyore, so 0772-807-506. Alternatively, you can like our Facebook page, Agribusiness with Wadzanai, make a follow-up on this episode and more, and leave your comments and suggestions. They are most welcome to us. It's on our YouTube channel, Agribusiness with Wadzanai. We are also now available on X, formerly known as Twitter. It's at Agribusiness 110. Now, earlier on, front of the break, Mr. Dendere here was telling us of how you can acquire an offer letter. Mr. Dendere, we are here in the second segment. Welcome back.
Thank you.
Now, you would find that at the moment, there is a topical issue. Issue yema joint ventures. What is a joint venture? How is it done? Where does the government come in? I understand that maybe it might be between two people, Wadzanai and Mr. Dendere wabvumirana kuti oshandisa zvako pano. So what is the role of the government or your department or the ministry in ensuring that the joint venture is a success?
In the context of our land reform, when we talk of joint ventures, we are talking about where a landholder, a legal landholder for that matter, and an investor come together to work on the land. But if you check our conditions when we give offer letters or tenure documents to our farmers, one of the conditions that you cannot sublet or sublease without the minister's authority.
Yes.
And we have realized subletting, subleasing is not beneficial to our farmers. But when it's a joint venture, they work together there's skills transfer, there's infrastructure development, which
Yes.
is what we encourage. So yes, the ministry has allowed landholders and investors to come together and work as a joint venture. What is needed is to register with the ministry. We have drafted a template that can guide our farmers and the investors to use to guide them in terms of developing the joint venture. But then they should come to our legal division where they will be assisted to have it approved by the minister. Only an approved joint venture is respected and protected. The joint venture will protect the landholder and also the investor. In case there is a dispute, we have a basis to address that dispute without prejudicing any of the two. But I want also to highlight from our earlier discussion to say the reason why the ministry has allowed joint ventures is an acknowledgement to say land is a finite resource.
Yes.
We cannot stretch it, and everyone who is in need of land cannot get land in their own right. But a joint venture allows a person who is eager to do farming to access the land without necessarily being the landholder. So we are discouraging and informing the public to say, anyone who says to you, pay me some money, I'll have an offer letter given to you, they are lying to you. There is no such thing. Our land is given where it's available for free. You will only be required to then pay your land rentals once you have your tenure document.
Okay.
And when you have your tenure document, you should be taken by the land officials to be shown the land that you have been allocated. You should not do self-help where you just go on your own and maybe there's someone who has an occupation or someone who has been downsized and you start fighting with those. We discourage that. We want our landholders to go through the land officials and be shown. But the most important message is to say, do not pay anyone for land allocation. It's done free of charge.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Dendra. I like that you have looked at the fact of rentals, farm rentals, which is what I'm going to be carrying on in my next discussion. It was such a pleasure having you with us today. Thank you for taking your time to come onto our platform.
Thank you, Wadzanai.
Thank you.
Thank you, Zimbabwe.
At this point in time, I have taken the liberty of inviting Mr. Darlington Chuma. He is the Director, Legal Services with the Ministry of Lands, Agriculture, Fisheries and Water and Rural Development right here in Zimbabwe. Mr. Chuma, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me on the show tonight.
Yes. As we get into our discussion, earlier on, Mr. Dendere here was telling us of the joint ventures. You are the Director, Legal Services. I understand that you do play a pivotal role when it comes to the establishment of these JVs. What is your role? Can you take on from there, explaining further what the joint venture entails, what it means or resembles?
That, as previously mentioned by Mr. Dendere, we introduced the joint venture framework. This allows for people with resources, investors, to come together with the landholders so that we bring previously unproductive or underutilized land into full production. So these JVs are monitored, they are administered, and they are approved through the legal department in the ministry. To make it easier for our farmers, we do have a joint venture template which they can access for free from the legal services department. So this then sets out the minimum parameters which are supposed to be met when it comes to entering into the JVs. What are these? We're talking about skills sharing, we're talking about profit sharing, because it's a joint venture. It's not a lease agreement or a rental agreement. In this particular instance, there is supposed to be sharing of the profit and the proceeds, since these are two parties working together in this common venture.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, Mr. Chuma, you would find that most of our Zimbabwean farmers at the moment, when this joint venture issue was brought to the table, to the public, some were just identifying land by themselves, or some farmers were having their own relationships or having their own discussions with certain people coming and saying, you know what, I have land. Is this the way it should be? For me and myself and someone out there just having our discussion, then we come to you, Mr. Chuma. Is it how it's done? Or a farmer or investor should come to you first, or I should come to you first with my land and say, you know what, Mr. Chuma, I'm looking for someone who can invest. How is it like?
Okay, thank you for that, Wadzanai. Let me address the two issues that are coming out from that. First of all, in terms of Section 17 of the Land Commission Act, it's only the minister responsible for lands who's got the authority to lease out agricultural state land. So if there is any arrangement where someone is leasing out agricultural state land, this is an illegal arrangement.
Okay.
What we simply encourage is that there should be a partnership where people enter into a joint venture. That joint venture is approved through our processes in the ministry. Any other issue that is
outside of that,
any issue that is outside of that, then that is illegal. Yes.
Okay. Now, as we round off this segment, Mr. Chuma, what are some of the opportunities that are there for maybe the youth who's tired of waiting on the waiting list, or someone who's in the diaspora, who's in the UK? I have a lot of viewers who watch my program on agriculture and production issues who want to come back and invest, but maybe the waiting list is rukunetsa. What are some of the opportunities for them that is available for them to say, you know what, I do not have land, but I'm producing?
Thank you for that. So first of all, I would wish to state that we are in the process of developing what we call a matchmaking platform.
Okay.
So this matchmaking platform aims to bring together the landholders on one part and then the investors or those with capital on the other part. So those who've got the energy, those who've got the resources and want to participate in our agricultural sector, they then access land or they get partnered with the requisite kind of partner through this model. How does it operate, or how will it operate? The landholder will register on this online platform. They'll indicate the size of land that they have. They'll indicate the type of investor they are looking for and the type of agricultural activities to be done on the land. And then also the potential investor does the same. They register on the platform, the type of land they are looking for, the kind of activity, and the platform then brings them together and they are able now to freely access land. And in order to make sure that we do not waste our farmers' time as they are going up and down chasing up their JVs, if everything is in order, it takes not more than 48 hours for us to process the JV from start to finish.
On that note, we've come to the end of the second segment. We're going to go on a short commercial break. We'll be right back with this and more in that third and final segment. Stay tuned. Thank you, Zimbabwe, for staying tuned to Agricultural New Directions, Agribusiness, in support of Vision 2030. As a country, we are talking of becoming an upper middle class economy by year 2030. And one way we can attain that is through addressing issues surrounding land acquisition and land utilization. Mr. Chuma, we are here in the third and final segment. Welcome back.
Thank you.
Now, Mr. Chuma, you would find that in our farming lands, kumapras kwakagara vanhu, there are conflicts every now and again. We have issues surrounding farm roads, whereby maybe the road to maybe a dam passes through someone's land, or the road to pastures passes through your farm. Road, people are blocking roads for each other. In those conflicts, your sentiments, your views, panyaya farm roads, panyaya access to water for irrigation, muma dams.
Okay, thank you for that, Wadzanai. Let me start by stating that for every single farm that there is, we do have what is called a layout plan, which demarcates the boundaries within which one should operate in terms of their land holding. So when you are settled on the farm, that's why we are advocating for orderly human settlement on our agricultural land, because the land is planned first and then people are shown their boundaries. In showing them their boundaries, they are also then told of their rights in relation to the infrastructure that is there. So there is the right to passage. There are the common roads where everyone is supposed to have the right to pass through those particular roads. No one is supposed to block access to those roads. And then you've got what we call servitudes. You've got what we call water servitudes. Like everyone has got the right to access water from the water source. Even if after the planning process has been done, you come and then you have discovered that you have developed new capacity and you want to access water from that particular water body, which I'll listen to say that all these water bodies belong to the state.
Yes.
So no one can then claim that this is my private
Because
dam
it's in my farm.
because it's in my farm. So we will send in our professionals, our cartographers. They'll go in and map out a servitude that then allows you to access water from that particular dam, and you can do the conveyancing to your particular plot.
Now, Mr. Chuma, looking at sometimes in our communal areas or A1 farmers, there are periods whereby sabhuku anongogadza munhu panzvimbo. We have headmen. Maybe at times I wouldn't want to speculate, but there are issues at times whereby it's alleged that some just come and pay something and they are allocated land without the involvement of the ministry or the government. Vangobvumirana vari tu nasabhuku or nemukuru ari munzvimbo iyoyo. What are your views? What does the policy say in terms of such practices?
Okay, on that one, I'll start off by saying that the ministry does not operate through agents and proxies. We do have officials that are employed particularly to administer land. So we don't allocate, or we don't have sabhukus who are given the powers to identify and allocate land. That power vests within the officials in the Ministry of Lands. So any allocation or any identification of land by any person, whether it's the sabhukus or any individuals purporting to have that power, is illegal. Let me also add on that particular aspect that in terms of the planning of these particular farms, we've got grazing areas that have they are there. We have got areas that are designated for homesteads. This is made so that our agriculture is sustainable. This is made so that our human settlement on agricultural land is sustainable going into the future, and also that you are able to do your agricultural activities. You've got areas to do your cropping and areas for your livestock.
Finally, Mr. Chuma, in a snippet as we close, I want us to look at ways of how can someone or an individual report, and where can they report in cases whereby he's been approached tine land yatutengesa $10,000, or issues whereby maybe at times Mr. Chuma, at times lands officers might say, we know of land that is somewhere down there, just give us 5,000, we can process something for you. What is the reporting system like? Where does this person go? Does he come here? Does he go to the Zetarapi? Does he go to ZAC? Where does one go?
Yeah, thank you very much. First of all, the land is our heritage, and it's not for sale. We should guard it vigilantly. Anyone that comes across someone who's purporting to have powers to sell agricultural land should approach the nearest law enforcement agencies. They are also free to approach our offices, where we will investigate each and every single case that is brought to our attention. We do have the means, we do have the mechanisms through our provincial and district structures, and also through the Lands Inspectorate. Everyone is free to approach us and bring those issues to our attention.
There you had it, viewers. Today we were looking at issues surrounding land acquisition and land utilization. You would find that in Zimbabwe we do have a lot of farmers, a lot of aspiring farmers, those that do have the capital resources and the production means, but they lack land. So today's episode was centered on land acquisition and maybe some opportunities that are available for our friends or relatives that are out there in the diaspora who are looking to come back and invest in agriculture. From me, your host was Zanai Manyore. I'm also on Instagram. It's W Manyore, and the crew behind the scenes. Have yourselves a fabulous evening. Thank you for watching.